Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and welcome to the season review of Demon Slayer Season 3, the Swordsmith arc. Just first go with a non-spoiler review, so that way anybody who hasn't seen it yet can kind of get my general thoughts. I would say that I think this season started very strong, coming off the entertainment arc and kind of carrying some of that same energy that it had towards the end of Season 2, which was great. Because all of those episodes are really exciting. And then kind of halfway through the season, we kind of see a little bit of a dip. And then, of course, the finale had some peaks, but also left me wanting a little bit. Overall, I think this is a great season. Season 2 is definitely still the strongest season in Demon Slayer for me. But I still really enjoyed this, and we got some character development that I feel like Demon Slayer has been lacking. We got it for some people, not for others, so still lacking in a different kind of way now, but I mean, we gotta start somewhere. But overall, I really enjoyed this, and of course, the animation continues to be top notch. They have, once again, taken another step up. Everything looks great. And the whole like movie before the season format I still kind of don't really like because of the retreading of ground. So I kind of feel like, I don't know, if you're going to see the movie, I feel like you're kind of wasting your money unless you can see it for free somehow. So maybe they'll change that in the next season, but I don't know. Okay, all of my kind of like overviewing thoughts over now. Diving into spoilers. I have the Wikipedia list here, so I'm just gonna run down the list with each episode, point out things I liked, I didn't like, and so on. So let's go ahead and get into it. Alright, so starting with episode 1, Someone's Dream. The big takeaway from this episode is getting to meet all the upper rank demons. So Muzan calls them all together. We actually get to see Muzan in that dimension along with the other demons, and it was actually pretty interesting because it kind of feels like we're seeing the enemies that are to come. At least I hope so, based on the way this whole series, has been structured. It was cool to get to see all of them, and then kind of Muzan kind of hands off a mission to Gyoko and Hatengu, who are the two demons to beat this season. And then we also get to hear Muzan kind of talk about his mission for finding the blue spider lilies that will help him conquer the sun. So then moving on to episode 2, Yoriichi Type 0, that was actually pretty interesting. Tanjiro goes to the Swordsmith village and he meets Mitsuru Kanroji, and she kicks it off with Nezuko right away, which is really cute. And it's kind of nice to see like a little bit of the calm before the storm. I don't need everything to be like action, fighting, violence all the time, you know. It's cool to see like Tanjiro's character development to continue to grow as a character outside of battle, and also get to connect with all these different people in the Swordsmith village outside of Haganezuka, which is his specific swordsmith that does not want to see him. And I actually really liked his development in this season because he easily could have been kind of a throwaway character the entire series. Somebody who brings Tanjiro's sword and then goes back home and does whatever he wants to do. But they really kind of made him step up, and the anger is definitely still there, but also the passion for making swords and his dedication towards Tanjiro and trying to make a good sword for him. That really comes out this season. I thought that was pretty cool. We also get to meet Kotetsu, which is a cute little buddy for this season. We kind of don't get to see him as much towards the end, which makes sense, but I still kind of miss him a little bit. He's really cool. He's a swordsmith in training, and he has this doll, Yoriichi Type 0, that he is trying to preserve because it's kind of like a family heirloom. And that's actually in the first episode, or is it the second episode? I think it might be this. No, it's the first episode. We see Tokito kind of bullying Kotetsu and like, hey, let me try with this doll. I heard this doll can do cool stuff. And then he kind of rips it apart, which is also kind of a good intro for Tokito, because we're immediately like, he's a jerk. And then you get to see his backstory and like, oh, I understand. But yeah, getting to meet Kotetsu is cool, and also like learning about Yoriichi Type 0, or I assume that the swordsman was named Yoriichi, and that's where they got the name from. And I feel like that's one of the big mysteries of this season, is after interacting with the doll and talking about the swords and stuff from the doll, we don't hear pretty much anything else about this. And so I'm very curious as to whether this man that the doll was modeled after is the first sun breather. It's seeming like he is, but there could be a twist somewhere. And then did the first sun breather become a demon at some point? And I guess it would have been caused by Muzan. I'm not 100% sure how old Muzan is, but Muzan, he's the main guy making demons. Not the only one, but the main guy. So I assume he would be the one to catch this huge figure, the first sun breather, you know? So then we go to a sword over 300 years ago, that episode where Gyoko and Hatengu are introduced and both of them infiltrate the village. So Tokito goes to try and fight Gyoko, and Tanjiro, Nezuko, and Genya go to fight Hatengu. And that's kind of where the madness starts. And it was building up, for me, it was building up to be another really hype moment. Similar to Tanjiro fighting, I can't remember their names from season 2, but those two, the brother and sister demons from season 2, fighting those two, because it was very unexpected for, first of all, the sister to then like drop out a whole nother demon, and for that demon to be even more powerful than the sister, and for them to have to both be beheaded at the same time. The Hatengu is also pulling some kind of weird demon wizardry, I guess you could call it, where every version of him at that moment had to be beheaded at the same time, or at least that was the theory. And of course, they were not able to do that right away, considering, you know, they are not Hashira. They are just, what would their ranking be, actually? I don't know. I guess just regular demon slayers in the core, so they're fighting that fight and are kind of getting crushed. One of the demons, Yorogi, hits Tanjiro with a sonic shriek, and that sends him flying. So this season did a great job of having this team of demon slayers and then separating them in a very natural way. It's not just like, I don't know, it just makes sense, and it adds some tension because, like, oh no, they're all separated, they're on their own, and not only are they on their own, but they're with Hatengu that can split apart into even more enemies and possibly overwhelm them. So I was definitely feeling the tension there. Really enjoyed that episode. And then we move into Thank You Tokito. So Thank You Tokito kind of goes a little bit into Tokito's story, where him being faced with the decision of self-preservation versus saving some of these swordsmiths that are being threatened by one of Yoko's fish demons, triggers a memory for him to unlock, literally unlock. And he remembers talking with his father, who seemed like a very kind-hearted person, very similar to Tanjiro, which is kind of explains his kind of fascination with Tanjiro and why he listens to him probably more than we would expect him to. And then we flash back to Tanjiro, Nezuko, and Genya, who are just, you know, fighting. I can't describe it better than the episode visualizes it, but we get a lot of fighting. It's also very cool fighting, and I feel like, thinking back now, this might be where they spent a lot of the budget as far as fighting is concerned, and maybe even thinking about the manga, because I think everything plays out pretty much one for one with Demon Slayer. Maybe the mangaka spent a lot of time coordinating all these fights in these kind of early chapters of this arc, that once we got to later chapters, it's like, you know, Tanjiro and Genya and Nezuko have already proved themselves. We don't want to see any more fighting. But for me personally, a finale doesn't feel finite unless we have like the big reveal, the big battle, the big thing. And there were some big things that happened in that finale, but I feel like a lot of this fighting is something that I definitely would have loved to see incorporated. Moving on to the episode Big Red Sword, Mitsuri has arrived in the swordsmith village, but she is not nearly close enough to the action, in my opinion, because, you know, we see her arrive and then that's it. Let's go back to Tanjiro and Tokito. With Tanjiro in particular, though, he has quite a big moment in this episode, and that might be, if not his biggest moment, but it's definitely something that I can immediately remember in my head reading the description again, where him and Nezuko work together. Nezuko uses her blood demon art on Tanjiro's sword, and he's able to pull off another one of his sweeping sword moves that looks iconic. It's visually very pleasing, and it scares the Hatengus, I guess as a collective, because it gives them a vision of the original sun-breathing demon slayer. And I'm just like, that just makes me want to know more about this guy. So I'm really hoping we get back to the story of the sun-breathing demon slayer or swordsman at some point. Hopefully in the next season, because some people are saying the next season might be the end. And again, going back to my critique of Demon Slayer, it seems like some people, they get a pretty fleshed out backstory. We kind of understand their motivations, what they've been through, things like that. But then there's also Zenitsu and Inosuke. Inosuke, we know he's lived on a mountain. He seems like he was raised by wolves almost, which is not entirely a bad thing. He's pretty funny. And Zenitsu, raised by his grandfather, didn't want to be a demon slayer. That's all we know about the two of them, and they've been in two seasons and 2 movies, I think, at this point. So I just want to know more. I want to know more. Then the 6th episode, Aren't You Going to Become a Hashira, is pretty much centered around Genya and his backstory. And like I was talking about backstories before, thankfully he does get one. We don't really get an explanation about his techniques and the whole eating demon flesh thing. But I guess learning why he became a demon slayer in the first place is a good start. So we get to know Genya and his relationship with his brother, Sanemi, who is the Earth Hashira, I believe it is. And another tragic backstory where the parents are killed by demons. Their siblings, they are multiple siblings, they're all killed by demons, and they're the only 2 survivors. And Genya, while he was a young guy, he kind of held a grudge against Sanemi because he thought that he had killed their mother. And technically he's right, they did, but he killed their mother because she was a demon and she was going to continue to terrorize the village that they lived in. It's interesting that they're kind of like building up this kind of, there was tension between them, but now Sanemi kind of holds a grudge against Genya for not really seeing what was going on and treating him differently in that moment when he had given his all and received nothing in return. Unfortunately, he's not in the season though, so hopefully we'll get a little bit more build up and Genya will be present in the next season. Awful Villain is kind of another big episode where Tanjiro, Nezuko, and Genya are pretty much getting down how to fight the 4 different versions of Hatengu, and I've also learned that there's a 5th that's actually the main body, so they've even like split up their resources enough to go after that one. And Hatengu pretty much just says like, alright, like it's time for me to get serious, I'm done playing around. And the 4 different versions that were running around from him made up all kinds of different emotions, combine into one to create Hatred, one of the coolest looking demons in the series that might be the most underutilized demon. It's to be determined right now, but as of what we've seen so far, I think he's the most underutilized demon, but we'll get to that in a moment. We also go back to Tokito's side of the story. Unfortunately, Mitsuru didn't get more of this pie. We might talk about that more as well, but we go back to Tokito's side of the story, where I forgot to mention, Gyoko trapped him in a water vase. Gyoko's whole thing is trapping people in vases, attacking people in vases, making art with vases, all that kind of stuff. So he's slowly drowning, and Kotetsu runs out of the woods to try and help him by stabbing at this pot with a knife, to no avail. But when Kotetsu gets stabbed himself, that's when Tokito finds the strength to break out of this pot and help Kotetsu. And in that next episode, that's when he starts his battle with Gyoko. So, the Mu and Mu Ichiro, he's starting this battle with Gyoko, but not before we get his, once again, tragic backstory. And I was talking with my friend Brandon from the Amateur Otaku channel, which I'm also on, y'all should check it out. And he said that he's not super passionate about Demon Slayer because the storytelling is a bit cyclical and repetitive. And he's not wrong. I just feel like certain characters do this, instead of calling it cycle, I'll call it like a trope, like the demon slayer trope, the demon trauma. I think that some demon slayers have better backstories than others, and that cycle doesn't become so apparent with others. And Tokito's, his is kind of different. It's kind of unique, where his mother, just sick, has an illness. Well, I shouldn't say just sick, has a like very bad illness, like she is dying from it. And his father goes out to get this flower that he thinks can help cure his mother. His father slips and falls off a cliff and dies, and his mother dies that same night. So all he has left is his brother, Yuichiro. And this kind of confused me at the time in the anime, because I'm thinking like, wait, Yuichiro is acting a lot like present day Muichiro, aka Tokito. And it turns out that his brother also ends up dying, but he died due to an attack from a demon. And this kind of traumatic event, plus the injuries that he sustained, plus he kind of went crazy and mutilated this demon, understandably so. It caused his like psyche to kind of relapse, and he kind of became Yuichiro a little bit. And he didn't really regain more of his self until literally in this episode. So he's been kind of acting like Yuichiro, I think, as a defensive mechanism, because Yuichiro was kind of hard and kind of like, oh, you're so soft. Dad was soft. That's why he died the same night that mom did, because he went out and tried to do something for somebody else. And as he starts coming back to himself, he realizes that his brother just acted this way because he was hurt and tried to find somebody to blame, pretty much. Which is actually really powerful. And that's why I like his backstory. Even though it does have the whole, your family got attacked by demons kind of thing. Everybody around you, for some reason, they just had to die to create her backstory. I do like his backstory still. And then all these emotions amount into episode 9, Miss Hashira, Muichiro, Tokito, where we get kind of like the closure to his arc as far as regaining his memories, regaining himself as a person, and now he's taking on Gyoko pretty much at, well, I won't say at full capacity because he was drowning for a very long time, but he seems pretty close to form and is not at all struggling with any of the attacks that Gyoko throws at him. So much so to the point where Gyoko decides, okay, I'm getting serious, I'm getting rid of the vase, I'm getting rid of the pots, this ain't about art now, it's about boxing. And he takes his final form, and Tokito says, oh, that's cute, and Gyoko dies just as quick as he transforms, pretty much, which is, I feel like, one of the flaws of this season. We see this demon that we've been fighting for so long. They get serious, give us their ultimate transformation, and then are almost immediately cut down and die. Now, I wasn't too upset about this upon first watch when Gyoko got killed, because he kind of seemed like not a joke demon or a joke villain, but he wasn't the main villain. He wasn't the one that we should really be afraid of. So I figured, oh, maybe they just wanted to kind of save their screen time, save some animation time for the fight with Hatred and Hatengu. So, like, I wish Tokito had a bigger finale, but it's fine. I would be wrong about that. And I would continue to be a little bit upset when we move into episode 10, Love Hashira Mitsuru Kanroji. If you take a look at these titles, both have their full names and their Hashira element in it. Kanroji gets one episode for her backstory. Now, granted, when you take a look at her backstory, she, as a child, she grew up as a very strong little girl, and she also liked to eat a lot. I can relate to eat a lot kind of stance, but her talking with her dad and her mom, they set up an arranged marriage so that way she could live a happy life, all this stuff, yada yada. All the guys that they lined up for her said, "We don't want to be with you. You're freakishly strong. You're weird," pretty much. And so because of this. Oh, and the fact that she naturally has pink hair with green tips. So because of that, she pretty much tried to change herself. She stopped eating as much. She dyed her hair black, and she just tried to be as pretty much not herself as possible. And she finally was able to land the guy who proposed to her. He wanted to get married, start a family, all that stuff. So she got what she wanted, but not as who she actually was. And she was going to have to live a lie her whole life. And so she decided, like, no, I'm not going to do this. And what's a little bit unclear is how she gets connected to the Demon Slayer Corps through that. I don't know if it's just word of mouth. Hey, there's this really strong girl over here. You should recruit her. Or if that was the situation. But pretty much she gets recruited into the Demon Slayer Corps. And she has somewhat of a happy ending where she finds people that are willing to accept her. I don't know if it's in the romantic way that she wants, but she's at least making friends and being accepted. And is able to relate to people that she... in a way that she couldn't before. So I thought that was really nice. I can see why it's only an episode. I want more though, because after we get her backstory, we also get to see her kind of fighting hatred / defending Tanjiro, Genya, and Nezuko from hatred, playing a little bit of defense as they try to get towards or run towards the main body to make another attempt to try and kill this demon. And we see a few of her like ribbon sword moves, and that's kind of it. I kind of wish, I'm not sure if it's because it was hard for the manga to draw or because it was hard for the animators to try and figure out how to get this admittedly very fluid animation for the ribbon sword and continue to do that episode for episode. But in my opinion, we don't see enough of her this season. We don't see enough of her fighting demons. So maybe that's something we'll get next season, but we actually got like a little confirmation that the training arc season 4 has been is going to be in development. They just approved it, and it's going to be focusing on all the Hashira. So the fact that Kanroji has already been introduced, she's probably not going to get that much time on the screen, and that's unfortunate. And then finally moving to a connected bond, Daybreak and First Light, we come back to Tanjiro after what seems like a little bit where we're not super ingrained into his story, which is actually kind of interesting and refreshing to get some new perspectives. Tanjiro is beat up to hell. He has multiple broken fingers, which I think he puts back in place at some point because it seems like he uses them just fine in the finale. He has a foot that's been, I think, cut through the middle, but he kind of works his way through it. He's beat up and he just needs to find a way to cut off Hatengu, the main body Hatengu's head. So he's running, Genya's running, Nezuko's running, but they just can't keep up with him. And so Tanjiro actually like takes a minute, thinks about Zenitsu and his talk with Zenitsu and how he does his Thunder Flash Thunderclap and Flash move. And at first I thought he was about to use thunder. I was about to be like, he can do 3 different elements, but no. He adapts the same kind of like muscle constriction methods to do I think they call it a dancing flash. And he's able to move just as quick, or at least we assume just as quick as Zenitsu to catch up to a Tengu. And he tries to slice his head, does not work. So as a punishment for failing to chop his head off, Hatengu grows like 3 sizes. He turns into a giant version of himself and starts choking Tanjiro. And thankfully, Genya and Nezuko are there to back him up. So he gets off him for a second and gives Tanjiro enough time to actually chop off his head. So he thinks that, like, you know, the job is done, everything's cool. And just as the sun is starting to come up, so he's like, all right, let's get out of here. There are also some swordsmiths in the background. They're like, have seen all this happen. Like, oh my god, we might need to move. That's what I've been thinking. And then Hatengu gets back up. And he starts chasing after these swordsmith villagers once again, so that way he can get the blood, so he can heal, because it's taking him a little bit longer to heal for some reason. And as he's doing this, the sun is coming up, but it's not burning him quick enough, so Hatengu might be able to catch up to these people. Meanwhile, Nezuko is also still out, and is also burning because, you know, she's a demon. So Tanjiro immediately like grabs her, covers her, and is like telling herself to shrink so that way she can stand in his shadow. And it's one of the most emotional moments in the series, or not in the series, excuse me, in the season. It could, Rengoku probably tops it, but I was on the verge of tears once again watching this show, thinking that, oh my god, Nezuko is burning, like this is bad, this has have some permanent effect, like will she be scarred for the rest of her life? And then her freaking flashbacks start playing, and for those that watch a lot of anime know, usually if you see a character, they're in a bad situation and flashbacks start playing, they're probably gonna die. And so I start thinking the worst. Tanjiro is freaking out. He can't make a decision on whether or not to save Nezuko or save these villagers. And Nezuko makes the selfless decision and kicks Tanjiro away from her towards the villagers, pretty much giving the signal, go save them. Like that's what we're here for. Go save them. So Tanjiro stands up, he uses the dancing flash, and he chases Hatengu down. He figures out, like, okay, I sliced the head off, that didn't work. There's gotta be some other trick, and he finds out there's actually a tiny main body inside of the big body that he actually needs to slice the head off. So he does that, saves the villagers, and looks back at Nezuko, and she gets up and she's fine. And at first I was, my friend Brandon, once again referencing Amateur Otaku, he says that it probably would have meant more if Nezuko died. And part of me agrees. It would have meant more if Nezuko had died because, you know, she really is reinforcing this idea that, like, we're here to save people, you know, it's not just about me. But this journey is all about Tanjiro trying to find a cure for Nezuko. He would not be here without her. So I understand why she needed to live. And I wish her conquering the sun, as Muzan called it, didn't happen so... It felt almost so sudden that, you know, one moment we see her kind of like burning to a crisp, the next she's up, her mouth guard is off, and she's talking, a little bit, seems perfectly fine. It's such a stark contrast, but there definitely was relief. Trust me, there was relief when I saw, like, okay, Nezuko's gonna be okay. And then also bewilderment, because I'm like, oh my god, Nezuko's not burning in the freaking sun. And even Mitsuru, she's like, yeah, everybody's okay. What the frick? Like, how is she doing that? Which I don't know why nobody thought to have any kind of concern that a demon is surviving the sun. I guess that might come later. But Muzan definitely had some thoughts about that because I don't know how he knew. He was saying like, oh, good job, Hatengu, as if like he ran there and told him. I guess he can see through every demon's eyes. But if he could, then wouldn't he have just known that Nezuko was the one that conquers the sun? I don't know. In any case, he knows. And Twitter was kind of going crazy when he made his transformation from the little boy to like back to Michael Jackson because he was looking kind of cute, I gotta admit. And he says like, she's the one I've been looking for. I don't need the blue spider lilies now. I can just absorb her and I will be able to rule the world. I don't know what his goal is, but he has that realization. So now we know, based off of Twitter and what we've seen over the past week, that next season Muzan definitely going to be more involved. All of the Hashira will be on screen at some point in time. We'll get to meet some of them, or all of them. And Nezuko plays a much bigger part in the series, which is interesting because so far she's just been the girl in the box. But now she's the girl that conquered the freaking sun, the demon that conquered the sun. I feel like this season left me with more questions than gave me answers, which is always a bad thing. I just feel like it was kind of more so setting up a lot of things for potentially the final season. I wish we had a more like ultimate fight with Tanjiro and Hatengu and Tokito and Gyoko, but I actually had one of my chatters while I was streaming on Twitch tell me that next season there might actually be too much fighting because that's kind of what happens in the manga. So I guess we'll have to see how things work out. But you guys let me know down in the comments below. What did you think about this season? Did you enjoy it? Did you not like it? I would love to hear your thoughts. Also, favorite moment. For me, it's got to be going back to the beginning. My boy Inosuke waiting for Tanjiro to wake up on the ceiling of the hospital. I don't know if that's my absolute favorite moment, but when I think about it, it just makes me smile. So that's definitely got to be up there. But tell me what yours is down in the comments below. And what are you looking forward to next season? Manga readers, no spoilers, just for anime only people. I mean, y'all can say what you're looking forward to without spoilers. If not, don't do it. Don't do it. But what are you guys looking forward to next season? And what are your theories as to the awakenings, actually? Because I thought the awakening thing only happened for Tanjiro, and then it happened for everybody. So I'm like, what is that about? We're supposed to hear more about it next season, I guess. So what's your theory? I guess we'll see if we're right or we're wrong. And with that, I hope everybody has a nice evening or night. Whatever it is, enjoy it. I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.